Twitter. Jack. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, indeed. It is that time of the week again. And it's that time of the month again. We're back. We're live. Look at that. Ugh. Well. Well. Hello, everybody. Welcome to your Tuesday mothership stream here. Coming to you live from sunny and perhaps beautiful Denver, Colorado, United States, North America, the world, solar system, the Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe. We back on a Tuesday. Feels good. Took last week off from Tuesday because it was my son's birthday, so I had to do the dad thing and get the house prepared. Nylob hit that sweet spot of 6 days ago subbing and then having a resub show up again less than a week later. Thanks for the 10 months, man. Thanks for the 9 months last week and the 10 months this week. I don't know how that works. Appreciate that, man. Oh, no, it's 12 days ago. I don't know. It said 6 days ago, Nylob subscribed for 10 months. And then just now it happened again. So we'll take it. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's that weird crossover where you have the alert, because the alert never fired from the 9 months, and then the 10 months. Yeah, whatever. Still good. Still nice. Still nice of you to do. Thank you very much. Yeah, so so last week kind of took off on Tuesday, which kind of a bummer. I was trying to get one in because Tuesdays are, of the 2 days that I stream every week, Tuesdays are my favorites because it's just kind of the sun is nice out this window and the vibe is good and I have good energy. There's no sweatiness involved usually on a Tuesday afternoon. And I do like these particular streams where we talk about our books that we've been reading and the movies that we've been watching. So these conversations kind of will they're always kind of in flux. So basically, if you're not familiar, what we do here in our little Discord is we have a book that we kind of vote on. I'll pick a genre or a theme for books and for movies, and we'll pick one book a month to read, and then a few movies, usually 2 or 3 movies to watch that kind of fit. It's not all the same genre. The movies will be different than the book, but so we've been doing that for a little while. Through the movies, things kind of started about a year ago through COVID. We've been doing this for most of COVID, and then the book club thing we've been doing for a few years now. So I try to do a stream every month where we kind of can get together and chat a little bit about, even if we haven't been reading the book club book per se or seeing the movies that are part of the movie club, just kind of a place to say hey, I saw this, I've been watching that, I've been meaning to watch this, you should check this out, that sort of thing. A place to share ideas and suggestions and things like that. And as you can see here, I've created a list this month of the movies. This is a list of the movies. There are 3 movies on here that were part of our movie club, and the rest are movies that I remember watching in the last month that I just want to I put them on there so that I can remember them, and so that if people show up during the course of the stream that they can see that oh, we've been talking about these movies. So if you have anything that you would like to add to this list of movies to check out or books to read or whatever, the book is at the bottom. This one. I don't know if we're going to talk about Dune today. I know Norman finished it. I don't know who else is reading it in the community. So I finished it last week. It took we could talk about it. Norman, I'd be happy to talk about it, especially since I did watch the movie as well. So I've got some fresh Dune thoughts. And I think it's been long enough now that we should probably talk about it. So we will definitely. It's on HBO Max, I believe, right now. So maybe we should just get to that right now. So Dune was we'll talk about movie and book at the same time. We'll kind of do the two birds one stone thing. This is a copy of Dune that I got. It's got that nice embossed cover to it. It's a big chonker. I did spill a bunch of coffee on it. I got it new, and then of course, like within a week, I spilled coffee like right next to it while I was reading, and so I soiled the pages. So it's no longer in mint condition, but it's a nice book. This is one of the nicer books that I own. It's just added character. Yeah, I kind of like splurged because I'm like, usually what I'll do for a book club is I'll buy, like, if I can get like I'd like to get a hardcover version of whatever book we're reading, just because I like the weight. They look better on the bookshelf as well. So I'll usually just try to get like used, if I can, like a used good condition hardcover version of whatever book we're reading. And there weren't any really available for Dune. Like this one was like, I think this was like $25. I don't know if there's a price in here anywhere. Maybe it was more than that, but usually it's like, it works out to like $10-15, you know, for a book, which I'm like, I could, you know, that's fine. And this one, since it was going to take me like 2 months, I was like, oh, I'll spend a little bit more on this one. So I'm glad I did too, because it's, you know, hopefully my kids want to read it someday. It's nice to have like that nice like copy of the book in the house. So but yeah, so we started. Dune was like, so set the Wayback Machine for 5 months ago, October. No, it's not there. I might have had to dig for it. So in October, we were kind of like thinking about what we were gonna do for November's book, and with let's see. There's no like another. Is it collectible? No. See all formats and editions. Oh, you got it? Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know what printing this was. So we were with Dune was back in 2020. If you guys remember that fine, amazing year. Yeah, this is the 2016 publishing. The movie Dune was supposed to be released, directed by Denis Villeneuve, and starring in, you know, featuring this amazing cast. I'd never read the book, but I was stoked to see the movie. So I was like, all right, well, I know it's a super long book, and the movie was supposed to come out around Christmas of 2020. And so this is back in October. I was like, all right, well, let's, for November and December, we'll do Dune. You know, we'll give ourselves 2 months to read the book, and then we'll have it fresh in our minds. We'll be able to go see the movie if we want to in December, and it's all going to be great. And then 2 things happened. First, they delayed the movie for a whole year, and the book was very long. It was very long, and I don't think anybody finished it in that time frame. I just finished it last week. It took me almost 4 months to read it, and I'll kind of talk about how that may have affected my my review of the book. But that was the reasoning for choosing this book, was because it fits that kind of like, you know, it fits that kind of like sci-fi theme of what we try to, you know, where we always kind of circle back to here. And then also we had done in November, we did we called it November, and we watched, you know, 3 or 4 Denis Villeneuve movies to kind of like get super hyped for the movie, and then they just like, you know, moved it to a year later. So it was kind of a, you know, kind of let the air out of the balloon a little bit, but I think it's a good thing. You know, we'll be able to hopefully actually go see this movie in a theater now, which after seeing the original movie, the 1984 movie, it's definitely in need of a remake. Get this update for me. Boop, there we go. So I guess I'll talk about the book first, and then I'll talk about the movie. And obviously, if you guys want to, you know, chime in the chat, interrupt me, ask questions, post your thoughts as we're going through this. I will try. I'm going to do my best to try to not conflate. Is that the right word? The movie and the book, since I finished the book took me 4 months, and then I watched the movie directly after reading the book. So pardon me if I kind of get if there's some weird like crossover there. I suppose we can kind of talk about both at the same time as we're going through, but I guess overall thoughts on the book were, and I've talked about it a little bit throughout the course of reading this book. Turn the music down just a touch here. Is generally positive. Like, thought it was good. I don't think it's my. I understand why. Again, this is just kind of an overview. Like, I understand why it's like a classic. You know, it's obviously like a huge sprawling epic, and it's very well written. It's super like rich in kind of in the setting and the history, like within the story line of the book. It really kind of like, it's like, feels like kind of like Star Wars, where it kind of like drops you, like the first Star Wars movie, where it like drops you into the middle of this thing that's happening, and you kind of have to play catch up, you know? Like, you can imagine people like going to see Star Wars for the first time. You're like, what's going on here? Like, you know, I have no idea who these people are, what's going on, what is the Senate, what is the political situation here, what are they trying to do, what the heck is the Death Star, like what are all these terms, you know? And it's kind of like that, where it kind of like drops you right in the middle of this. And I think that I kind of enjoy books that do that. And the movie handled it differently, I think. Like, the movie kind of gave you this the book did a great job of showdown, exactly, and the movie did the opposite of that, where like the first throughout the whole course of the movie, it kind of was like, here is what's going on. Let me explain everything to you, you know. It definitely had like that narration at the beginning, which I thought like was decent, because like every chapter in the book has like the princess kind of like giving a little like excerpt from, you know, from her account of what's going on. She's kind of like this narrator, sort of. She doesn't really narrate the book, but like there's a little bit of her at the beginning of every chapter. And so they definitely went with that in the movie as well, but it was more of like, the year is 10,000 blah blah blah, and this is what's happening. And yeah, and I think that's why that's why it's taken so long for this movie to get remade, and why the original kind of has this, I don't know, it's not really a stigma, but like I think it was one of those books, kind of like Watchmen, where it was viewed as being like unfilmable, you know, for a long time, where they were like, you can't make a movie about this because it's just too long and there's too much going on there. But I think like we're talking less than 10 years after Star Wars came out, people were just like, you know, audiences will go, we want this done. Like, David Lynch was kind of you know, an upcoming hotshot at that point. And so they kind of went with it. And not to say that it didn't work, but the movie didn't work, but it definitely suffered from that. I mean, you can tell that it was very difficult to kind of put this book to film, you know, which is why I'm really interested to see how they do it now, you know, like 40 years later almost. I found myself when I was reading it definitely flipping back and forth to I don't know if with whatever version you guys have read or whatever, if they all have this kind of like glossary at the end, or the terminology. I found myself at first definitely flipping back and forth between this to be like, who is this guy? What does this word mean? Is this a person? Is this a title? Like, what's going on here? And there's actually a map at the back of this thing, which I never even looked at. And I think I kind of got to the point, maybe like a third of the way through the book, where I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna like kind of like ride this wave and not try to like become this expert on everything that's going on here in this book. I'm just gonna kind of like I'm gonna be a bystander as I'm reading this and just kind of like let people talk, and hopefully I'll be able to figure it out, just based on what happens in the book and what the characters do and how they interact with each other. And that actually worked really well. That's like, I think when it really kind of clicked for me. The reason it took so long for me to read the book is because it took me a long time to get going, because I was like, what does this mean? What does that mean? I want to like know everything about what's going on here. And it was almost like too much. There was too much flipping back and forth, and there was too much stopping and starting when I was reading. And definitely I think like the reason the appendices are there are probably because people were just like, you need to have this in there because nobody's going to understand what's going on. Or there were some people that were like, it would be nice to have on the second reading, like to have that when you kind of already know what happens and you kind of have a basic idea of who the characters are. If you read it again, I think if I ever read this book again, which I hope to do someday, I will definitely make more use of the terminology and the map and all that stuff, and to kind of get more. It's like buying it's like a DLC, right, for the book, where you kind of get more out of the story because you already have that kind of like, you know, the basics of kind of how the world works and what happens to each character and how they're related and all that stuff, just because you've read 600 pages of them. But if you want to get more in depth in the story and in the world and all that stuff, it's there for you. You don't have to. I'm sure there are websites devoted to it, but you have it all in like one spot. So once I got past that, as far as reading it, it really kind of was much more of an enjoyable experience for me. And the last like kind of dense sci-fi book I read was called The Fifth Season. And that one as well took me about a third of the book to get to the point where I was just like, where it clicked. And like Norman, you were saying in Discord the other day, like you hit your critical mass, and that sounds like you were probably around like book 3, I think, right? Like the end of the last third of the book or so, where it kind of just like you're just coasting downhill, just flying through the book. And the fifth season was like that for me for like the last 2/3 of the book. And this one was like that for me, probably like the last quarter of the book. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed reading the entire thing. It was a weird experience because it did take me a long time to get through it. But every time I sat down and was like, okay, like I'm just gonna read for an hour, or I'm gonna read a chapter or two. I got really into it, and I was able to. I think it's a testament to how well the book is written and how well the characters kind of sit in your how they're built and how they kind of the themes of the book are the locations of the book and the technologies and things like that are unique, I think, but the story of the book is very much it's a lot like Star Wars in that it's like you kind of know, having consumed 40 years of stories and media and tropes, you kind of are familiar with, you know, the royalty structure and you know, the exploitation of resources and the person who, and some of these things wound up bothering me at the end. The elite person who, like, you know, becomes entrenched with the locals who are just kind of like simple folk, and then he winds up like leading them, and you know, that kind of stuff. I'm just like, it's almost like the Messiah thing going on. What's up, Good for Gaming? How's it going? Which is like, okay, like that's a story device that we're all very familiar with, which made it easy to like kind of take it slow with this book, because it wasn't like, I need to keep reading this or else I'm going to forget what's happening, because it's completely evident and obvious what's happening pretty much at all times in the book. And I think part of that like almost made it predictable, you know, like I had never seen the movie, I had never read the book, so I didn't really know anything about the story before reading the book. But at the same time, like as I was reading it, I kind of had a good idea of what was going to happen. Like, you know, I was saying in Discord the other day, like there was probably like a very maybe like a chapter or two where I was like, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen here at the end, you know? And then I was like, oh, I think I know what's going to happen, but I'm not quite sure. Like this could go either way here. I was only on that like razor's edge, like for about a chapter or two, and then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. And it took a long time, but there was that like kind of that mystery sort of where it was just like, well, I haven't seen this part of my future yet, you know, like I don't know what happened. I know a lot of what's going to happen, but I don't know everything, you know. And that was kind of the moment where I was a little bit like, oh, are we gonna have a little twist here? And it was not really. But still good. Like there was still drama there, and I liked that about it. And you know, we were talking about this too, of the way that he, you know, I read a little bit of the this one has an introduction by Neil Gaiman, and he talks a little bit about the history of like how the book was written, and how this guy basically was like, you know, hermit mode writing this book. And you can tell that there is definitely like a lot of like care, and this guy was there, man. He was like living in that universe, writing this thing, because it does just kind of feel like almost like a history of like a very well cross-referenced and documented history of this period of time in this universe on this planet with these families, you know what I mean? That's kind of what it reads like. It reads like a really like a historical fiction almost. And it's really it's great. It's like it's a hard to get through just because of its length. And I wouldn't say it's like a page turner, you know? It's not like this I can't wait to see what happens next kind of book, because like you were saying, it's almost all laid out for you. So you have to kind of be interested in the journey of getting from point A to point B, even though you know what those what the start point and the end points are. So you have to, as a writer, he has to make it that journey interesting and keep you engaged. But it's not like this whodunit kind of like action-packed book, really. It's just a good journey. It's like if you like those books like Lord of the Rings and those things that are just like these long, like kind of, you know, not super dramatic, not high drama, high tension books and stories, but it's, you know, the journey takes you to and through like different places, and there are interesting characters along the way, and people come in and come out. Then definitely like this is the kind of book that you're gonna enjoy, kind of just like taking a while to read it. Yeah, no, it is like it feels like you know, like he obviously like spent some time on this, and in that respect it's special, because I think it's very rare where you can have a a book, and I haven't read any of the other books, obviously, but just we're talking about just this one in particular. To have somebody spend that amount of time and put that amount of effort and research and like care into their story, and have it be this kind of big long thing, and it actually works, that's why it's a classic, right? Like, because that's not, doesn't always work out that way. So yeah, so a couple of things that I did again kind of think were funny, and again, this book was, when was it originally published? 1965. So it does have a little bit of that kind of like that 60s, mid to late 60s sci-fi cheese to it a little bit. Like I liked, like the names were kind of funny to me, I thought. You know, we had like we had all these kind of like indigenous kind of sounding like names, like, you know, they had their own, the Fremen had their own language, and there, like, we had a lot of different names that are not like normal names, but then you have like Jessica and Paul, which I thought was funny. You know, because it's like a lot of the other names were kind of like, they sounded made up or very kind of like not uncommon names. And just kind of stuff like that, where there were certain moments that were a little bit jarring to me. Like, you know, they're talking about all this new tech and the spice, and we'll get into the spice from the movie in a minute here. But there's a scene in the book where the dude just like asks for a cup of coffee. And I was just like, that's weird. That just seems weird to me. Like, that's almost like it's like the Spaceballs truck stop thing, where I'm just like, oh, you're gonna get, you know, like a cheeseburger. It's like asking for a cheeseburger. Do they have coffee? Like, like there's all this, you know, alien planet where there's no water, and you know, they have to really kind of like, it's a struggle to survive even for the very ultra rich and all this other stuff, and it's just like, but there's still coffee. There's just like, they just call it coffee. Like, Paul wants a coffee. You know, is a scene in Dune. Which just made me kind of laugh. I was just like, this is kind of funny. But again, that kind of comes with those were kind of some of the just very few moments where I was just like, oh yeah, this book was written like, you know, what, 60, almost 60 years ago or so. Yeah, but again, like, I'm excited to kind of see a re-envisioning of this book, because the movie so many things to say about the movie. First of all, like, it felt like almost like a Shakespearean take on this book. You know, there were so many scenes in the movie where it's like, and I watched the movie with the captions on, and it's like they call it inner voice, and like all the characters do it. Like, they all have like inner voice, like he knows something about what's going on, or like I can feel that what's going to happen next. And it was just like, oh man, it was like reading Shakespeare in, yeah, but it just felt like in a movie. Like, that's one of those things where it felt kind of, it didn't really translate well for me in the movie, just the way it was executed, I think, you know, like, again, like, show don't tell. Like, the movie did a lot of telling, you know, like, there are ways to kind of like get those types of things out of your actors. I'm just be bashing David Lynch, or like just showing things using editing or different shots, rather than kind of doing like the voiceover thing with the whispering. You know, it just felt a little bit kind of, again, like it felt Shakespearean, where like the character like steps to the front of the stage and then speaks their thoughts, you know, to the audience, which is like, again, like it's a way of doing it. And you know, Shakespeare is very very successful with that method, but I feel like for a, and I think that's what they were going for with the movie. Yeah, I know, but like, I'm just saying, like, again, that's why I'm interested in seeing a different take on how to do that, because I don't think that, like, in today's cinema you're gonna have like that same thing. Like, you're not gonna have Timothée Chalamet like looking off camera and then like in a voice inside his head, you know. So I'm interested to see like how they do that, because there are ways of doing that, you know. These, you watch a movie from the 80s and then you watch a movie from now, and even just with editing, you know, shots are so much shorter now. Like, they don't linger as much as they did before. And that was one of the other things I noticed. And I was thinking actually a lot about Star Wars when I was watching the movie, because I just felt like there was, and I don't know the story behind how the movie was made or anything like that. I don't know too much of it, but I felt like there were a lot of these kind of like establishing shots almost that were just kind of like static, you know. There wasn't a lot of, it was like everybody in the scene at the same time, like a wide shot with like, say, 3 or 4 people in it, and then you would like, the only close-ups you would really get were like the internal voice, you know, the inner voice. And there wasn't much, and that was just the style of how movies were made at the time, especially like these big epic things where you had like giant sets and you wanted to get, you know, all of that stuff in. You didn't want to like zoom in on people's faces or cut to close-ups or anything like that. And just the editing was so much more drawn out back then, in the 80s. But then like I was thinking about like Star Wars, and one of the things I was thinking about in particular was the Baron, right? So the Baron has he's this big old fat guy, and he's got this suit that like helps him like levitate, and in the movie, in the suit, I didn't imagine him kind of like flying all over the place like Charlie and his grandfather in Willy Wonka. I kind of just imagined him. I imagined it like making him feel like he was like a fit and limber young man, not like flying him all over the place and him just kind of like Peter Panning it all over the stage, you know. But that's what they did in the movie. He was kind of this like maniacal. I don't know. I didn't see him as kind of this like, I liked that. So I did like that part of his character. I liked the fact that in the movie he was like this like just crazy person, and he was like loud and boisterous, and I just didn't really get that a whole lot from the book version of that character. But in the movie it was over the top, and I liked that. Like, he was definitely the villain, you know, like cackling and laughing at everything. He was like insane. But there was that scene, especially the first scene where we meet him, where they're like going at his little, you know, going at his face, and at the end he kind of like takes off, and he's like, you know, laying out his entire plan for how he's gonna like destroy the good guys. And he's like flying around up there, and I'm like, this is quite obviously just a guy on a gimbal there's like a PA like pulling the strings here, because it just looked like he was tethered to something, you know. Like, the effect was not really that good, or definitely doesn't hold up after 40 years. But then you kind of like, I was thinking about that actually this morning. I was like, when I was kind of putting my thoughts together for this conversation, and this movie came out a year after Return of the Jedi. So like all three, and we're talking about, these are, you know, Star Wars movies are movies where there is a force where you can levitate things. If you haven't seen Star Wars. And I was just like, I never got that. I was trying to think of like the worst levitation effect in the Star Wars movies, and it's probably like 3PO in the chair, right? Like floating around. in the Ewok village when Luke like levitates him, to kind of get them out of trouble there. And even that one, I'm just kind of like, it's kind of like cheesy, like he just kind of like, oh god, you know, and he kind of like spins around or whatever, but you never really got the kind of feeling that he was like on strings, you know. Yeah, I mean, but you think about like the scene in Empire Strikes Back where Luke is training and he's doing the handstand. He's not really levitating, I guess, but he's got like the one arm up and the rocks are kind of floating around. And I guess kind of they went for it more in Dune, but I don't know. It just looked kind of, that part kind of looked kind of goofy. But again, like it fits where Dune fits in that kind of, for me at least, in where the movie fits in the hierarchy of like sci-fi movies. I did enjoy the movie. I actually thought it was fun, you know. I don't think I took it seriously though, and so I kind of put it in that vein of like Never-Ending Story and like Labyrinth, you know, that are kind of like, oh, these are fun movies, but I'm not like emotionally invested. And I probably would be maybe it would be different if I had seen the movie once before in my life, but I never had. Whereas like, you know, Star Wars and the Star Trek movies, and Star Trek not so much, but like it was just kind of like looking back on it now, and again, like I'll say it one more time, like seeing a new version of it is going to be super exciting to me, because like the content or the story is there, the characters are there, the setting is there, the cast is freaking amazing, the director's really good. It really, really deserves this treatment that it's getting finally after, you know, 40 years. And I think it's probably because like the first movie was kind of like, I believe, I need to look up some wiki on this, but I believe Lynch even took his name off of it. At one point it was an Alan Smithy movie. Let's see, Dune movie. Let's see. Let's see. Upon release, Lynch disowned the final film, stating that pressure from both producers and financiers restrained his artistic control and denied him final cut. At least 3 versions have been released worldwide. In some cuts, Lynch's name is replaced in their credits with the name Alan Smithy, a pseudonym used by directors who do not wish to be associated with a film which they would normally be credited. The extended and television versions additionally credit writer Lynch as Judas Booth. The film has developed a cult following over time, but opinion values among fans of the novel and fans of Lynch's films. So it had some problems. And I know that's actually a movie I do want to see. I'm gonna put that on my list of Jodorowsky's Dune. Which is a documentary about Alejandro Jodorowsky trying to make a version of this movie, because it's been attempted many a time. I'm gonna put this down here, and you kind of feel bad because you know, those movies are movies like that are like Spider-Man was like that too, right? Like Spider-Man, Superman, like all these, we know of these stories of these movies over time that have been in development hell, and it's usually like, yeah, it's the studios thinking that like they know best, and or like that, you know, X won't be marketable, or they want final cut, they won't let the directors kind of do what they want. Like all these, like James Cameron was attached to Spider-Man at one point, right? And we have those pictures of like Nicolas Cage as Superman, and like all these movies that never happened. And eventually sometimes they do happen. And so that's why, like, when they announced that Dune was being made by Villeneuve, I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see a trailer. And then we did see a trailer, and it looks amazing. So Yeah, I have been meaning to. It's been on my list for a long time. I just haven't been able to find it anywhere. So I'll put it on there again and watch it one of these days. I think it was on one service, and I had it on my list, and then it like dropped off the service. So, yeah. So I guess kind of like to sum up the book and movie, like I really want to put things in the context of COVID. When I am able to take a vacation again and go somewhere and just like relax for like a week or two, I am going to take this book with me and try to read it again in a more condensed amount of time, because I really did like it. It's not like my favorite sci-fi book of all time. It didn't like hook me like that. But I think that part of that reason was probably because it took me so long to read it. Like, it was such a drawn out process. But I do love movies like that, and I love books like that I can just like always be reading. You know, I feel like this is one of those books that I could just kind of like always have it going, and then like finish it and then just start it over again, and then just kind of keep going and read it over the course of a year or whatever. But I would like to kind of like at one point focus and just kind of like sit down and read it, like sitting on a beach, hopefully. Or something like that, or someplace like that, sitting in a hot tub or on a beach or in a hot tub at a beach, at some point when I can like actually go on vacation again. But yeah, enjoyed it. I liked it, did not love it, I would say. So we're gonna give it, I would probably, at least right now, I give it 3 stars. 3 stars out of 5 for the book. I would say liked it, did not really like it. I guess how my rating goes is like 1 star, hated it, 2 stars, didn't like it, 3 stars, liked it, 4 stars, really liked it, and 5 stars, loved it. Like one of my favorites of all time. The 5 stars are rare. So liked it. Would like to read it again. There's room for me to kind of like increase my love for it, especially if the movie is good. I think easy 5 star for you. Nice, man. That's awesome. I can't. Had you read it before? Have you read it before? Is this your first time reading it, or was that your first time reading it? Okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I kind of started this thing, was to kind of like, you know, I know that you guys and we all have these things in common, and there are these common pieces of media, of, you know, books or movies or whatever, that like everyone's kind of been meaning to see, and to be able to do it at the same time, it's good. And actually, like, so I mentioned the 5th season. That was a book that it was on our list like last year, and that one is that was a 5-star book for me. Like, that is probably currently my favorite sci-fi book that I've ever read. But these things are always in flux, you know, and they're always there's always room to kind of like change your ratings based on like how you change as a person, and like upon second readings, or putting it in context with other things, and that sort of thing. So yeah, Dune the book, 3 stars. Dune the movie, I will also give 3 stars. Probably more like a 2.5. But I think it's like the cheese factor pushes it into liking it for me, you know? Like, I don't know. It's very David Lynch too. There's lots of like those, you know, kind of like weird moments, and some of the characters I think are like the Baron I really liked. Sting's character I thought was kind of funny. The effects were like the shield effect was, I was like, oh, the first time they showed that, where he like Patrick Stewart, where he like spars with Patrick Stewart at the beginning. The cast in that movie, I was like, what? Like, Patrick Stewart's in this movie? Didn't that guy ever have hair? As like a Strickland moment from Back to the Future. Where they are like, they're the first where they're sparring at the very beginning, and the shields come up. They put their shields up, and it's just like this like blocky kind of that is interesting. I don't know if I've seen. I don't think they showed how that's gonna look in the trailer for the new one. But I'm interested to see what the shields look like, um, and all that. That's that scene in the beginning. It fits in like that. Again, I was thinking a lot of the effects of the Neverending Story, where it's kind of like, oh man, if they only had waited like 10 more years, they probably could have done more with this. Like the training robot that comes down in the beginning too. Oh, do they show them? Okay, I'll have to take another look. I did watch the trailer again after watching the original movie, but I must have missed it. I'll watch it again and frame by frame it. But like in a way, it's like endearing. Okay, yes, it's the big training robot that comes down. Does it come down or come up? It's like that big cylinder thing with the spinning blades, and he has to use the weirding tool to kind of like knock off the. It looks like what it reminded me of was the suicide booths in Futurama. Like when Bender goes in there and it's got like the ice cream scoopers that scoop out your eyeballs, and then like the little like drill bits that come out, and it's like, you are now dead. It reminded me of that. It was like a suicide booth from Futurama, which they may have. Futurama may have cribbed that. Yeah, and Kyle MacLachlan too is not like, I don't know. I know him as an older actor. I've seen like Blue Velvet and a lot of the movies that he was in when he was younger, but I see him as more of like a dramatic actor, or like Sex and the City, and like like kind of almost like a romantic lead, or I don't know. I don't see him as like this jumping around like very like live and physical action guy. He's kind of a pretty boy, which I think like Chalamet definitely is a pretty boy. Right, like he does not strike me as kind of a like an action, like a hero type really either. But I don't know him well enough to kind of he just seems younger too. Like I don't know how old Kyle MacLachlan was when they made that movie, but Chalamet feels younger to me, like he could pass to me as like a early, I don't know how old he is, but he could pass as like early 20s for me. Let's see, he's 25. Yeah, so that's kind of like, and how old? So that's about the age that I would assume Paul is. And then let's see, Kyle MacLachlan, he's 62. So let's see. So he was like 22. So he was, yeah, I guess he starts off 16. But like Chalamet could pass as a teenager. I feel like I was gonna say he could pass for 18. I think, he's just like skinny. He's kind of got like a younger looking face, kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio when he was younger. Just like even now, like Leo is like, he could be yeah, it might as well be one age. It doesn't really matter. So MacLachlan, let's see, he was born in 59, so he was like about that age. He was in his early 20s. I would imagine him being older. Actually, he's only 62. He's younger than my dad. But again, like I just kind of don't see. I don't know. I know I was biased, I guess, based on like my history with watching movies, and I've only seen Chalamet in like a couple of movies, and I don't know. I feel like he could kind of be like Tom Holland type physicality, like Tom Holland works well as like a teenager, but also like he has the physical presence of like a man. You know what I mean? And I don't know, MacLachlan always seems kind of like doughy and like kind of just like a normal dude, not this like prince who's been a trained warrior, and Chalamet has kind of more of that body type, I guess. Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see it. Again, I'm excited to see it on the big screen too. I was thinking of, even like before they delayed the movie, I was thinking of like renting a theater out to see it. just so I could kind of watch it safely on a huge screen with the sound. I think the sound, especially in this one, with like the thopters and the the what are those devices called, where like they kind of pound the ground to get the worms to show up, and then the worms, like big bass. I want all that stuff. So I'm excited. Thumpers, yeah. So that, I hope that I'll get to the theater before Dune. Like, I'd like to see a Marvel movie in the theater, depending on how safe we're feeling. But definitely by Christmas, I feel like, which was when this movie is, I think, scheduled to come out, right? Let's see. The release date on this guy. Oh, October 1st. So I thought it was going to be holidays again, but it's not. It's October 1st, 2021. There's obviously, they could still push it depending on like how things are going, but we'll see. Should all be vaccinated by then, so I should be vaccinated by then, I'm hoping. So we'll see. IMAX 3D. It's also going to be on HBO Max, but I don't want to watch it here. I want to watch it in the theater with a tub of popcorn the size of my waist. All right, so that kind of wraps it up with Dune. Again, like, I'm glad we got through this. I'm glad you guys, you guys really liked it and got a chance to read it. I'm glad I kind of got a chance to watch the movie and am now caught up for October and ready to go. If I'm able to get out for a vacation this year, I don't know if I will. I will try to read this again, I think, leading up to the movie. And especially since, even with especially with a long book, like, if you start reading it again, you can go into more of an autopilot thing and get through it a little bit faster. So I'm gonna go grab some more coffee. I'll be right back, and then we will get into our other movies. Let's talk about our other movies that we watched this month after I take a short break. I'll be right back. All right. Dog's gone. Bummer. So yeah, changing gears a little bit. We're gonna in the next hour we're gonna change gears kind of severely a couple times. So our February themes were very far apart for books and movies, and they're not supposed to be close, but it was just funny how it worked out that way. We wound up going with romantic comedies that don't suck for movies, and for our book we went with free speech, kind of based off of things that happened in DC in January. So where to begin? I guess we'll talk about the movies first. So we kind of went with we picked the theme, and then I basically picked movies based off of, like, I usually go to Rotten Tomatoes is where I kind of choose the movies from, and kind of go off of the Rotten Tomatoes rankings there. And I don't just like pick the top ones. I pick ones that seem like they're interesting, that people might want to watch. And a lot of time I've seen a lot of movies, so I try to pick movies that I haven't, at least a couple movies that I haven't seen. So this month we went with 10 Things I Hate About You, Palm Springs, and The Big Sick. And I started with 10 Things I Hate About You, which I think I wound up watching while I was doing something else. I was like journaling or something like that. It was great. It was great. It was so fun to just like, I picked the perfect, you have those moments where like you pick the perfect movie at the perfect time and you're in the perfect state of mind where it just kind of like, I don't know, it's just perfect. It's just like, I was sitting there, I was like snacking a little bit, I was like halfway engaged with the movie. My wife was like in and out, she was like doing something else. It was on a weekend, and I really enjoyed it. Like my history with that movie is my first time seeing it. I was in college, I believe. One of my girlfriends in college loved that movie. Like, she was like, I think we watched it multiple times together because she, I think, owned it or it was on HBO or something like that, and she just loved that movie. She had a huge crush on Heath Ledger. She liked Shakespeare. But I was kind of like rom-coms. I was a film major in college, and so I was not into teen rom-coms really, really at all. I was more into the serious shit, the auteurs is, what is this even? This movie's got like, just a bunch of kids, and I didn't appreciate it at all. There were some moments that were funny, but it was not a movie that I kind of watched, that I would have watched on my own, or that I probably ever watched on my own, ever again, until recently. And I have since kind of taken a shine to those movies about kids in the 90s in high school, because that's what I was. I was a kid in the 90s in high school, and so there's a certain level of nostalgia there for me, of like, not that my high school was anything like the high school in this movie where they have like, live bands playing at prom, and everybody's super rich, house parties with people dancing on tables and things like that. It was not my experience in high school, but still, like, the anxiety was familiar, the cliques were familiar, even if the characters were a little bit over the top. There were still like those people, the angry girls, the guys who smoked cigarettes under the bleachers, the like cool pretty boys, the like nerdy guys who were trying to like get in with the cool guys, it's a common. At least I don't know what high school's like now, but for me it was kind of right on. But no, it's such a sweet and funny movie, and the adults in that movie actually really kind of put it over the top for me, like this time through. The English teacher, who plays that guy? He's familiar. It's I need the IMDb page. It is this guy, Daryl Mitchell, as Mr. Morgan. So funny in this movie. What do we know him from? Galaxy Quest? Yes, he's in Galaxy Quest. That's where I recognized him from. He was hilarious as the English teacher, who, you know, the yeah. But he's such a bastard, you know, in the movie, like as the teacher, and what's her name? She plays the guidance counselor. She's from The West Wing, and because I'm streaming, I can't remember her name. I have to look it up. Allison Janney, that's who it is. Allison Janney, Miss Perky, the guidance counselor, who's writing like this, like, you know, steamy, like, erotic novel, and uses like her students. It's all very awkward. Like, she uses her students' stories to kind of like fill out the novel. It's kind of weird, but it's a sweet movie. You know, Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles really had a lot of chemistry, I think, in the movie, and you could really kind of see. I was like, what happened to Julia Stiles? And I still was wondering what happened to Julia Stiles, because she's like a pretty good actress, I feel like. I guess she's still working. She's on a TV show, Riviera, which I've never heard of. Orphan First Kill, in post-production, The God Committee, coming out, completed 2021, with Kelsey Grammer. I don't know anything about it. Ian Garofalo is also in it. But I always thought she was a pretty good actress, you know. And Heath Ledger, you can just kind of tell that these are the two people who are going to be the stars in this movie. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in there also, we know, but I think this was kind of like right after. When was Third Rock from the Sun over? This movie came out in 1999. I feel like he was fresh out of the sitcom world. And he was not. Let's see, 1999. Dang, that he's been doing some work. So he was still on Third Rock, because Third Rock finished in 2001. So he was in the middle of. So he was just kind of a TV actor at that point. That kid from Firefly. What kid from Firefly? In 10 Things? I'm trying to remember who that was. Robot assistant. Let's look up. Serenity movie. Nathan Fillion? Let's see. Chiwetel was in Serenity. I didn't. Oh yeah, okay. David Krumholtz. I don't remember that part. Yeah, but yeah, he was in this guy. He was in both. He was Bogey Lowenstein. Is that his name in 10 Things? Oh no, that's Kyle Chase. This guy. He was Michael Eckman, the guy who had the the ween drawn on his face by the bully. Good call, Boris. Nice pull, man. David Krumholtz. So yeah, it had a good cast, right? Like they were all fun. Gabrielle Union, Larry Miller. You know, it was good. It was kind of a before they were stars. It was a coming out party for Heath Ledger, and Julia Stiles was kind of a known quantity at that point. I feel like. Had she been in anything before that, or was this kind of her big breakout movie as well? Yeah, I guess this was probably for both of them. This was their big movie. Dude, you and Yaba too, man. Like he was talking about that. Like he was like, I've seen that movie way more often than I forgot she was in Born. That's right. He was like, he said the same thing. He was like, I've seen that movie way more times than a 40-year-old man should have seen or whatever. So yeah, it's good. It's a good movie. It's very sweet, and I will probably. It's one of those movies that like I would watch it again for sure. You know, it's fun. Aw, adorable. See, I do that, but with like Master and Commander or The Hobbit. You know. I like that the Hobbit. I'll like let's start this journey again and again and again and again. But 10 Things is the music is fun too. You know, it like that. The music really brought me back too because it had. Is it Save Ferris? That is the band in that movie at the end with on top, and they play at the. I think that's the band, right? But it's super. It's a super fun movie, and there are certain things that are kind of like little letters to Cleo. Dang it. My bad. Same vein though, right? they're in the same. They're on the same tree. Did they ever announce who the band was in the movie? This whole time I thought it was Save Ferris. What was Save Ferris's song? Are you sure it wasn't Save Ferris? Oh, they did Come On Eileen. That was Save Ferris. They did the remake of Come On Eileen. I don't think it was. You're probably right. Let's see. Let's go to the wiki page for 10 Things again, and we'll see for sure. Is there trivia here? Let's see. Yep, the band Letters to Cleo appears as the band performing at Club Skunk, playing their song Come On and Copilot. So yeah, and playing a cover version of Cheap Trick's I Want You to Want Me on the school's rooftop at the end. Yep. Wait a minute. Hanley and Eisenstein also appear in the prom scene performing a cover of Nick Lowe's Cruel to Be Kind with Save Ferris. We're both right. How about that? The band Save Ferris appears as the band performing at prom, playing their songs I Know and Can't Stop, as well as covers of the Isley Brothers' Shout and Nick Lowe's Cruel to Be Kind. So we're both right, Boris. High five. Psh. What a pull for that movie to get Letters to Cleo and Save Ferris in the same movie. No wonder we got them confused. Amazing. I love it when that happens. I love it when a plan comes together. So fun fact. So yeah, good movie. I give this movie. Let's see. Let me get back to my ratings here. I'm gonna give this movie 4 stars. Now let's keep in mind, I give movies ratings based on like what they are and what their goal is. So if, for example, a comedy movie is supposed to make me laugh, if it does that, then it gets more stars than like a, you know, costume drama that you know, is trying to make me feel more emotions. 10 Things I Hate About You is supposed to make me feel kind of upbeat and happy, and it's supposed to make me laugh, and it does all those things. So I would say 4 stars. I really liked it. I would watch it again. Segueing, as my wife came down and was watching 10 Things I Hate About You with me, as I was bundled up under my covers, you know, my comfy tee and socks, she was like, this movie makes me want to watch Go, which is one of her favorite movies. And if you guys have not seen that movie, that is a movie by Doug Liman, and it's basically one of these kind of like Pulp Fiction knockoff kind of movies where like it's the same event and then they go over it and then do it like 3 times from different points of view. And so it's basically like one night, there is a rave happening. It's, you know, it starts off with these 3 people. They work in a supermarket together, and there's this party going on, and they try to get drugs, and then something bad happens, and then more bad things happen, and we kind of don't know what each part is doing. Why did it come up? It came up because is the guy, hold on a second, I have to look this up again. Is it the guy, the British guy? Is he also in Desmond Askew? That's him, right? Yeah. Or is it one of the people that he meets? And my wife was like, she's like, oh, that's the guy or that's the girl who has the threesome in Go. And I was like, what? Go on. And yeah, I can't remember who it was. But anyway, so she's like, you know, I was like, I don't remember that scene. I feel like I would remember that scene. And she's like, while the hotel burns down. And I was like, I feel like I definitely remember that scene. Tensure, baby, exactly. And I didn't remember it. So we went ahead and watched that movie. And that one definitely, like, as much as 10 Things made me kind of like nostalgic for high school me, I know, right? Yeah. And that's why I was like, I need to know about this. I guess it's time for us to watch Go again. And so we watched it, and that one definitely feels like a kind of like a moment in time, you know, because it's got like the Fatboy Slim style music and the like whoosh, whoosh editing, and Scott Wolf, you know, Scott Wolf and what's the other dude, Jay Moore. But like definitely like 90s, early 2000s, late 90s, you know, cast members in there. It's also got Timothy Olyphant, a very young Timothy Olyphant as like the drug dealer. Katie Holmes is in it, Sarah Polley, like all these people. That one actually, it got me thinking about like how much I would love to read or see a documentary on like an oral history of that moment in time of Hollywood. This is like the Swingers era, when, you know, like the movie Swingers, where it's like, you know, these like all the people who are now like Jon Favreau, for example, was like running the Star Wars and Marvel franchises, like living every child of the 80s dream, were kind of those guys in Hollywood, right? Like they were the kind of like just kind of living in shitty apartments and going out and trying to get work wherever they could get it. And I feel like, Katie Holmes aside, because she was a huge star at this point from Dawson's Creek, all of these people were kind of probably like hanging out. I feel like they were all hanging out together, you know, and from 10 Things probably as well. Swingers also Doug Liman film, exactly. And so like that's what kind of like made me think of it. I was like, I wonder if like Liman, like these people are all hanging out with Liman and they all like knew each other. I don't think there's any crossover in actors that I can recall from Swingers in this movie. Because Liman went on to do like Bourne and Live, Die, Repeat, or Edge of Tomorrow, whatever the heck you want to call it. So he has made a career from for himself as a director and a producer. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Where's my directing? All right, he's doing Cannonball Run. Nice. Untitled Tom Cruise SpaceX project. Interesting. So he did Swingers, Go, and then Born, right? And then Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jumper, Edge of Tomorrow. So he's made a career for himself. But I was like, oh, I'd love to know like what, as now that they're all kind of older, like what that time in Hollywood was like for those kids coming up. The Sarah Pollys and the Vince Vaughns and the Jon Favreaus and the Breckin Meyers and the Scott Wolfs and all those people, Jay Moore, like what was it like? What did you guys do? Was it, Go was had a lot of like Swingers was obviously like focusing on like the swing scene. These movies are made 3 years apart. Go was definitely like the rave scene. It's funny how both those movies are very much influenced by like going out and the music that you go out to see or the music that's happening in the background while you're having your little like adventures in LA. But it was again like good. I feel like it was like a Pulp Fiction for like a cleaner, and clean's not the right word, like a shinier version of Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction had come out just a few years before, and I'm always kind of like, I don't know about, and I'm gonna segue into little things with this as well. One of the things that bugged me about that was like it's almost too much like a movie that did it better. Which I guess you can't fault. There's enough art out there that is kind of not a knockoff, but definitely borrows a lot from other movies. And Go was fun, but I didn't like. It's not one of my favorites. I'll put it that way. Like it's not even one of my favorite movies from the 90s about the 90s. So I don't know what I would give this movie as a rating. It's kind of like a 2.5, but I would not say that I didn't like it. So I will go ahead and give Go 3 stars, but this is not a movie that I would watch again. Like I will never be like, oh, we should watch Go. Like if my wife wants to watch it again, I'll watch it, but I'm not going to pick that movie out and say this is the movie I want to watch tonight. It just doesn't. I don't know. I was never really into the rave scene either, so like that part is kind of like lost on me. Like the going out and buying drugs part. Like I'm just kind of like I didn't connect with any of those characters. Swingers I kind of did connect with a little bit because I mean that movie came out when I was in college, and I saw it the first time when I was in college, but then I wound up moving to LA and being like a struggling I was the Sarah Polley character where I was working like she wasn't trying to get into the business, I guess. I was kind of halfway between Swingers and Go, where I was like working a part-time job at IKEA trying to pay rent in LA with a part-time job and simultaneously like work for low or no cost like on movies in LA. So I was kind of like on the production side. I know that like in Swingers, like Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau and those guys are all actors, but I was on like the production side. So I kind of like lived that life sort of, but I had no money to like go to raves and do a ton of drugs. Like it was mostly just like any drugs I did do was just like going to my buddy's apartment and smoking pot and playing Madden. Or going down to the corner store and getting like a bottle of wine and playing Madden. When I was hanging. So that part of it too, like in Swingers, like when they were playing like NHL and making Gretzky's head bleed, that was definitely lived that life when I was in LA for sure. 100%. So yeah, so let me just kind of, while I'm thinking about it, the little things, I was talking about Go kind of being this movie that it felt like a Pulp Fiction for kids almost. You know, and I'm not like trying to, I think it was an R-rated movie, but it felt like that's kind of, yeah, it was an R-rated movie, but it did feel like kind of a Pulp Fiction for kids almost, where it's just like all this shit happens and here are the different storylines, and the movie, The Little Things. So this is one that is new. It's a new movie. It came out. It was February's HBO Max movie. So every month HBO Max has like this theatrical release that they'll put on their service, and you can watch it at home. And this movie, like, I think I may have seen a commercial for it or a trailer for it before something else we had watched on HBO. And it's got Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. And it's this crime drama. There's a serial killer in the LA area, and they try to catch him. And you can kind of, even just like with that one sentence synopsis and the cast, you can kind of, if you don't know anything about the movie, you probably know like where this is going, right? Denzel plays like the old weathered detective. Rami Malek plays the media savvy young guy. This movie takes place in the 90s as well. It's set in the 90s. And Jared Leto plays like the creepy long-haired like weird guy who doesn't blink a whole lot and kind of has a weird voice. He's wearing, I think in the movie he's wearing like a baby belly. Like he walks around kind of like this, and he's got like it looks like there's a pillow in his shirt, you know? I don't know. You guys, he plays Jared Leto. Exactly. He plays Jared Leto. It reminded me a lot of what the hell? I don't remember the name of the character he played in Blade Runner, but like of that guy where he just like doesn't blink and he just kind of looks around and is just kind of a creep and you don't know if he's good or bad, you know? But I will say the thing that got me hooked on this, or the thing that got me interested in this movie, was I was just like, this cast is amazing. Yes, exactly, Boris. This cat, like, so we've got 3 Academy Award winners there, right? We've got pretty interesting sounding plot, but it turned out to just be like this vanilla movie, man. Like, first of all, when we talk about borrowing things from other movies, this isn't spoiling anything. The movie starts off with a girl driving down the highway, like singing "American Girl" by Tom Petty, which is like, this is directly ripped off from Sounds of the Lambs, right? Like that's basically how that movie starts, which I was like, okay, homage, I guess, maybe, but still kind of a little bit too on the nose. And the whole time I'm watching this movie, I felt like this movie is just a worse version of the movie Seven, where you have like the whip smart young detective, and he's paired up with like the older, kind of over the hill, down on his luck, 2 days from retirement, like black detective, like Morgan Freeman, right? Or Danny Glover, if we're gonna put it in Lethal Weapon terms. And then you have kind of like this character actor. I'm gonna spoil Seven here, guys. Kevin Spacey in Seven. Jared Leto in this movie as kind of like the foil, the antagonist. And the whole time the old guy is trying to like rein in the young guy who really wants to like break the case. He wants to crack the case and be, and be the guy, he wants to be the famous person who like cracks this case, and it keeps him up at night and all this other stuff. And the whole time, like, the older detective is just trying to be like, you gotta pay attention to the little things, I just didn't, and it just kind of fizzled for me. The movie fizzled out for me, especially at the end. I was kind of just like, oh, like every kind of like twist and turn that happened at the end, I feel like I either saw it coming or I just didn't care, which is not kind of the way you want to really end a movie. I would not recommend seeing it, honestly, like, which is really too bad, again, because like the cast is amazing and the setting, it starts off really good. Like the first half hour, 45 minutes are like, oh, okay, this is cool. And Leto is like, when you first kind of meet his character, I'm like, oh, this dude's creepy as hell, man. He's good. He's a good creeper. But then kind of as the movie goes on, I'm just like, okay, like nothing, I feel like the characters didn't change a whole lot. There was not, the arcs were very flat on these characters. And Boris, going back to your comment, Rami Malek, a good actor, he was miscast in this role. Yes, in that way, it kind of felt like season 2 of True Detective, where I was like, "Wow, amazing cast!" Like Rachel McAdams and oh, what's that guy's name? From shoot, Colin Farrell. Thank you. Telling you, when the camera goes on, it all, like, I promise you, when the camera is off, I have all this movie knowledge in my head, and as soon as the camera goes on, it's all gone. And Vince Vaughn, yeah, Vince Vaughn was in that one too. He was the casino guy, right? But it did feel like, it felt like season 2 of True Detective, where I was all in. I was like, this cast is gonna be great. After season 1 of True Detective, I was just like, I'm looking forward to this. And then like it starts off super weird and creepy, and then it just kind of like, you know, by the end I'm just like, I'm only watching this because I've already invested so much time, I need to finish it. No, season 2 is terrible. Skip season 2 and go to season 3. You don't even need to watch season 2. Season 3 is really good. Season 3 is with Mahershala Ali. And that one we really, really liked that one too. Couldn't finish 3. Too boring or too intense? Yeah. I don't know. I liked it. I liked the slow burn of season 3, and Stephen Dorff in season 3 was really good as his partner. Good acting in that one. I would say the acting in that one may even be better than season 1. Season 1 had the best story so far. Season 3 I think had the best acting. Yeah. So yeah, if you want this kind of a story, I would say watch season 3 of True Detective, or season 1 of True Detective if you haven't seen that yet either, or rewatch that. But you can skip the little things, I think. There are better movies out there for like detective-y kind of serial killer trying to catch the bad guy stuff. It had some moments. I didn't hate it, but I did not like it, so I will give that one 2 stars. Yeah. No, Dorff, I thought he was great. I was just like, these guys both deserve like Emmy nominations for this show. He was, every time he came back onto season 3, I was just like, oh, we need more of this. We need more of these guys, these buddies. Right? I know. Yeah, like he had the family too. What do we got here? He just didn't. Yeah. I feel like if they had cast somebody else in that role, Boris, that it could have worked. Epic Games is buying Fall Guys, so they're gonna have Fall Guys and Fortnite, huh? Not a big Fall Guys fan. Tried it. Not for me. All right, so let's see here. Let's get back into our rom-coms. Switching gears again. Let's see, how can we make this transition? So another movie that we watched that takes place in California was called Palm Springs, and that movie is available on Hulu. Andy Samberg, and I don't think I know the names of any of the female lead in that movie. It is Kristen Milioti, who is from a sitcom. I did not recognize her at all. Wolf of Wall Street, she was in. Fargo TV show. Let's see. Mindy Project. How I Met Your Mother. Yeah, I didn't watch that show. Don't care for it. But this movie was amazing. So I didn't know anything about this movie. I had several friends kind of tell me that it was really good and that I should watch it, and that's usually why I don't watch movies. Truth be told. Oh my god, you have to see this movie, it's so funny. There's a couple people that very dear friends of mine, never come on the stream, so I don't have a problem saying this out loud. I have a couple of close friends who are, whenever they tell me like, you have to see this movie, it's so good, I'm like, okay, I'm not watching that movie. I don't know if you guys have that relationship with people or not, that type of relationship, but I definitely do with a couple of my friends. Anyway, one of my buddies months ago was like, you gotta see this movie, it's so funny, you'll love it. He's a big Andy Samberg fan too. So I was like, okay, I'll put it on the radar, and I never watched it. But with this romantic comedy genre coming around, like this movie kind of popped up on the list, and I was like, all right, well, maybe now is the time. And I was expecting your kind of run-of-the-mill. I don't want to get into like too many spoilers in case people haven't seen it yet, but I was expecting kind of your run-of-the-mill rom-com with like Andy Samberg humor in it, and boy was I wrong. Holy crap, this movie took a turn onto the crazy train about 20 minutes in, and I absolutely loved it. Like, my wife was like, I had heard of the movie because it had some hype, and right, it was like what's the trivia is that it's the highest paid movie from Sundance or whatever, like, the highest price tag of a movie to be bought at Sundance or something like that. I don't know. Business, money. But it had a lot of hype around it. Palm Springs, yeah. So funny, so like weird and interesting. I mean, it did, obviously there's like, man, I don't want to ruin it, but like, obviously there is, I don't think they ever mentioned the movie by name, that it very clearly is kind of a derivative of, but at first I was like, oh, is this like that Bill Murray movie? And I was a little bit like, all right, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go along with this, but it kind of did the same thing in a very interesting way. And it turned out to kind of be, and then I was kind of like, so the whole time I guess I had my defenses up watching this movie, because I was like, this is too much like that other movie. Are they going to try to like cutesy this movie up where there's the happy ending, and is it just going to like turn into this like generic rom-com? And none of that really happened. Like, it was an interesting movie. There was science involved. There was violence. There was just kind of like crass sexual humor. There was family dynamics, explosions, car accidents, J.K. Simmons. There's really no reason to not watch this movie. And Peter Gallagher and his eyebrows, my favorite eyebrows in Hollywood, Peter Gallagher. It really is just, it was a complete surprise, and I was so happy that best eyebrows, just top tier, 10 out of 5-star eyebrows on Gallagher. It was such a treat to see it and be so pleasantly surprised by this movie. And this is one that I will definitely be like recommending to pretty much everyone. I'm not going to be like, watch it with your kids, but like any adults who enjoy like just a good fun movie, it really kind of covers all the bases. It's kind of a unicorn. And yes, I guess you can technically call it a rom-com, but it's a lot more than that. And yeah, there's not really much more to say about it other than you should just go see it. If you haven't seen it yet, you should watch it. And if I'm that guy for you that when I say to go watch a movie, you automatically put it like on the back burner, then that's fine too. But when you finally get around to watching it, you will definitely be thankful that you did, I think. Because I don't know, I have a hard time picturing people who enjoy movies like not enjoying this movie. I don't know. It really is just, it really kind of just has it all. And so for that reason, I am going to give this movie 4 stars. Really liked it. There is possibility, if I ever see it again, there's a possibility of this movie going to 5 stars. It's on the radar for 5 stars, but for now, 4 stars. The last movie we watched and I watched this one just at the buzzer on Sunday night for February's rom-com month, was The Big Sick. Oh dude, Boris, you have to watch it, man. I'm serious, like if you like do movies with your wife, then watch it together. It's totally worth it. I need some water. I'll be right back. Oh no, it's right here. Never mind, I'm not going anywhere. It's so funny, and it's just so off the wall and crazy. It's great. Put it at the top of the list. So this last movie, for February's movie club, The Big Sick. It starts off very much like your run-of-the-mill rom-com, and I kind of was like, what is the name of this? Why this title? So basically it's about this, it's a semi-autobiographical movie, featuring Kumail Nanjiani, who's coming up in a Marvel movie called The Eternals. But he's a comedian by trade. And, right? He's in The Eternals. That's him, right? He got all kinds of jacked up for The Eternals. Yeah. So he's all ripped now. He looks totally different in this movie. He's kind of a doughy, just kind of a schlubby looking comedian. But he plays a character very, like, his name is Kumail in the movie. Like, it's basically he plays himself in the movie. And he comes from a kind of a very strict Pakistani observant family. So his mom basically is trying to get him to do an arranged marriage with all these people. He goes to his parents' house every week for dinner, and she was always bringing like women over for him to like consider for getting married. And the whole story. Like, his brother did the arranged marriage thing, and he's very happy now, and his parents are happy with him. And Kumail is kind of like living the American lifestyle. He's a stand-up comedian. But he's like lying to his parents that he is, still like an observant Muslim, and is going to law school, and he's not actually doing any of these things. He wants to be a comedian. He wants to be a stand-up comedian. And so and he's driving Uber, he's driving Uber, and he is doing stand-up comedy. And he meets this woman at a show, and they are kind of like, we can't do this, we're not right for each other, and you know how it goes. They like wind up just kind of seeing each other every day, and they like fall in love, and then they have a fight, and they have a falling out, and then she gets sick, and he has to kind of step in and play kind of this more boyfriend role as somebody who had a huge falling out with his girlfriend and his parents, with the girl's parents, who are amazing, by the way. Like, I don't know if you guys haven't seen this movie yet. Like, Holly Hunter and Ray Romano play the parents of the girlfriend, and they are just as as a parent, I loved them. Like I have a little bit of a crush on Holly Hunter. I just think she's an amazing actress um and and hilarious and like very, I don't know, I think she's great in everything that I see her in. She's kind of like a firecracker. She's tiny and she has that accent. I don't know. I have a crush on her. And Ray Romano, like, not a huge fan of the TV show, but when that guy does like comedy with curse words in it, he's funny, man. So they play the parents, and they're the best parts of the movie, I feel like. I don't know if Kumail really kind of carries the movie as a lead, you know, like he's funny, and there are parts of it that are really like laugh out loud funny. Most of those are with the parents, I think, like after the parents come into the movie. But the movie definitely like starts off very kind of as your standard fare rom-com, and then it kind of like takes this darker turn, and that's really kind of where it gets funnier, if that makes any sense. The humor, the type of humor that kind of is consistent throughout the whole movie, works best when it is kind of reflecting the worst parts of what these characters are going through. How they're reacting to it is funny. And when things are going well, like that humor doesn't really bounce back in a great way. But again, like it was kind of like this, it was a very, again, it's semi-autobiographical, and once you kind of, I think if you know that going in, there's a lot more depth to the emotion in the movie, and especially kind of like the peaks and valleys of the turning points, the emotional turning points in the movie have kind of a lot more impact when you know that, like this person who's on screen has actually lived this and is reliving it as an actor, and telling you like his story. So it's got some tragedy in there. It's got some you kind of love and hate all the characters at one point, which I think is a sign of a well written movie. I don't know, did he write it as well? Yeah, he's a co-writer with his wife. And then Michael Showalter directed it. You know him from was it Kids in the Hall? Was that him? Or The State? One of those. But he's been around the comedy scene for The State. He's been around the comedy scene since the early 90s, doing stuff, and Wet Hot American Summer. I'm not a huge fan of his work or The State and any of like those guys, really. I don't know. I'm just because I was not really a huge fan of that stuff. It's that kind of comedy didn't really hit with me. But he directed this movie. We're not friends anymore. I know. You knew this about me, man. I think I don't know. I feel like I feel like we have had this conversation before and we got over it. So I feel like we'll get over it again. As far as like troupe comedy goes, I don't know. Not Kids in the Hall even. I'm just kind of just like, all right, I don't know. I'm trying to even if I can think of any that I actually think are funny, like Monty Python, Saturday Night Live. I would have taken. I'm a movie guy. I'm definitely more movie than like sitcom TV comedy. For a while I was in the sketch comedy, but that was like, middle school, early high school. I loved it. Saturday Night Live, but obviously like you've got casts kind of coming and going. But more of a movie guy. I'm not a big sitcom guy, big TV guy. I'll watch a TV drama. I'll watch the hell out of a TV drama, but 30-minute sitcoms, I don't do it. I don't know. If you animate it, I'll watch it. I'll watch Futurama and Your Simpsons, and even that's kind of where it ends. you're Matt Groening, I'll watch it. I'll watch whatever you do. But yeah, all the other stuff, not so much. But yeah, so this movie was, again, kind of felt like and it's very much what it was. I think like kind of a. It's funny because in the movie he has like a one-man show where he is kind of like explaining his life. It seems like a train wreck of a one-man show where he's explaining his life as like a Pakistani American man, and this movie is a better version of that, where I think it's kind of like he's kind of telling us his story, or they're telling us their story, and he's acting in it. And in that respect, it feels like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like unprofessional. Like it just feels like an autobiography, you know, and not something that was like written by like a Hollywood writer. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, that comes across in the movie. He's not really like your again, like I don't think he really carries the movie like you would expect, like a leading, like he doesn't carry the movie like Andy Samberg carries the lead in Palm Springs, you know? Like he just doesn't have that kind of relationship with the camera and with the audience. It's just, but there is more like emotion there because it feels, the movie feels more real, obviously. I mean, Palm Springs doesn't feel real. But The Big Sick feels like almost like a, you know, like a documentary, borderline documentary, which I guess, you know, it kind of is supposed to feel like. Definitely has more of an indie feel to it. You know, there's like, you can tell like he's a comedian, and there's these people that he kind of like meets at the comedy club every week, and you can tell that like they're probably all friends in real life. They probably like went through this together in Chicago, and maybe this may have even been at the same club where they performed. Who knows? But if you like that kind of thing, if you like kind of the kind of slice of life comedy, it's a little bit dark, but it's also kind of like real. It feels very very grounded. Like, you know, I was, you know, kind of there's a couple of scenes where the parents are in the hospital and they're talking to the doctors, and the doctors are like, so she's got like this, that, and the other thing, and then they're all immediately like, hold on, like, what is it again, and then they go home and like start looking it up on the internet. It's like everything's cancer, right? Everything's cancer. Doesn't matter, like you have like scratchy eyes, like you have dry eyes, I mean, you probably have cancer. And I'm like, that's totally my parents. Like if I were ever to like have to go to the hospital with something serious and the doctors were like trying to figure out what was wrong with me, my mom especially, and in this movie it's the dad, but in my mom especially would be the one who's like writing everything down and cross-checking things and not sleeping, and, you know, going down the rabbit hole, going to the library, going to, you know, any calling different doctors and trying to move to the best hospitals and all this other stuff. Like, and that's exactly how I would handle it too, if God forbid anything like that happened to my kids. And so that part like really connected with me, and I think that's probably why I thought those parts were the funniest with the parents, because I could see a lot of myself and my family in this very different situation. So in that respect, I think it worked, and it's a sweet movie, and it kind of like, it made me laugh, it made me kind of like awe a few times, you know. It made me angry at the characters, which I'm sure like there are parts where they were probably angry with themselves when they were writing this, or even acting in it. So this one's on Prime, it's on Amazon. Definitely worth seeing as well. Again, like, I don't think it's to the same kind of like I recommend it to everybody level as Palm Springs, but I do think it's like it's a good movie to watch. And I think it would be probably enjoyable to most people who see it. Like, difference between this and Palm Springs, I feel like Palm Springs is like this movie, you should be talking about this movie with people, and this movie is more of like kind of just like a date night movie almost. I feel like, you know, like I don't know if you're gonna be. It's a good story, and it's a true story. And if you're into that sort of thing, rather than kind of like a movie that you might want to watch again, or like Palm Springs is more recent, so you know, you probably more people are talking about it now. But I think it's worth seeing, and good. Like, we were 3 for 3 with the rom-coms, guys. 4 stars, 4 stars, and 3 stars with the rom-coms this month. So we did it. Movie rom-coms that don't suck. We picked 3, and they were all pretty good. They were all pretty good to very good. Was the podcast like leading up to the movie? Terrible. What's going on? I'm not going to talk about Center Stage because we're running low on time and I have to go for a run. But the last movie I did want to talk about was I Care a Lot. The indoor kids, they talked about video games mostly. Oh, okay. Who was on it? Was it Don Johnny? And I won't spoil it. And yes, you definitely need to watch it. No spoilers. No spoiler talk about the movie called I Care a Lot, which is currently on Netflix. And so this one, oh, okay. Huh. I didn't know they did a podcast. Interesting. So, yeah, I Care a Lot. Let's see where to begin with this one. Watch this one because I have a crush on Rosamund Pike, and this movie was very highly reviewed, or whatever. Was hearing like buzz about it. Don't they all? I promise you, I will never stop. I will never stop having these Tuesday streams once I become professionally successful. Asterisk. So yeah, so not really knowing too much of what it was about, other than like she is a person who is like a ward for old folks, and there's some sort of scheme going on. Like, that's all I kind of knew from the trailers, is that she's a schemer and she's an anti-hero, right? And like, this is another one where I was kind of like, all right, it looks pretty good, but is this going to be like a drama or a comedy or a dramedy? And then I think once we started watching it, I was like looking up the actors in it, because there was another actor in it who I was trying to put my finger on. That actor is the girl who is in the movie called Isa Gonzalez. She is in Baby Driver. She plays the girlfriend in Baby Driver. But when I looked up the movie again, it said like thriller comedy, and I was like, okay. And yeah, in that respect, it had kind of that Palm Springs moment to it, where I was just like, all right, like, let's see what this movie just took a kind of a turn. And it was definitely kind of like we watched it, my wife and I watched it, and we were in our room in bed, and it was definitely like a laying down kind of movie. And then like once the movie got going, it was definitely like a sit up and watch movie, because it definitely like ramps up and starts getting pretty crazy. And yeah, I would be interested to see what you guys thought of it. I'm not gonna say too much about it, other than I highly recommend it. It does have it did have a few moments where I was kind of like, all right, like, you know, it's a little, it can get a little over the top, but it's very, very fun. And you just kind of like, it's rare to get those movies where on either end of the spectrum you like every character or you hate every character. And I don't even know which end of the spectrum I fall on with this movie, but it's definitely on one of the two ends of that spectrum. If that makes any sense. Like, you either like all the characters or you hate all the characters, and it probably depends on like your state of mind when you're watching the movie, what you were expecting from the movie, and like, you know, how you connect with the story. Dinklage is freaking, I mean, Rosamund Pike, whoever cast this movie did a freaking brilliant job, because Dinklage and Pike are both just treasures, and putting them on screen together and putting them against each other in the plot of the movie, that person like did their job. They did the best job they could have done. Like, he's just amazing, and he's so good. And like, when we were done watching it, we're just like, he's so good in everything he does. Like, how does he do that? Like, how does he? He's just a phenomenal actor. And so is she. And they're both just chewing up scenes in this movie, and it's fun, and it's like scary. It's a condemnation of our healthcare system in a way. In a not too subtle way. So there's a little bit of a like political subtext there as well. But it also kind of has this like crazy like off the walls, like Scorsese-esque almost like crime thing going on. Or like just a bunch of bad guys going against each other, you know, like the Scorsese movies are like that, where it's just like everyone is super flawed in all these movies, and we're gonna, you know, just pit them against each other, and you must choose who you think is the good guy. And is she Gone Girl? There's definitely Gone Girl vibes in this movie for sure. Like, they, you know, yeah, she definitely is pulling from that same well. She's drawing from that same well of acting. It's almost like Gone Girl meets like Atomic Blonde, kind of. Yeah, it's good. This one I give 4 stars. Really liked it. This is a movie that I will be recommending to people that they see as well. If they have not seen it, or if they're thinking about seeing it, you definitely should. Again, like, it's got that Netflix movie thing. I don't know how many movies you've seen that are like direct to Netflix movies. They all kind of have a moment where you have to kind of make the decision if you're in or not. Like, are you gonna go with this movie or not? And I feel like that movie happens in this movie at some point. We were able to kind of like, yes, we're in. We're going along with this movie now, and I don't care what they do. We're in, you know. And so I think that's why we liked it. I could definitely. I'm not, you know, when I put 4 stars on, I'm not expecting everybody to think this is a 4-star movie. For that reason, I think if you're not able to get to the point of like going along with the movie at that point, then I'm trying to be vague as possible about this. Then maybe it's a 3-star movie. I do think that it's enjoyable, though. I don't think that like you could watch this whole movie and kind of not say that you didn't like it. Just only if only because of the acting, because of Dinklage and Pike. I think that they are really good together. Diane Wiest is in this movie too. She kind of plays an interesting role, and Isaac Gonzalez is good as well. Like all the leads in the movie are really good, and even some of the bit parts of, you know, actors who I don't know their names are decent as well. So it's a well-made movie, but it has kind of that Netflix opposite of a sheen, kind of the haze over it, where you're like, okay, this is not. Maybe if they had like $5 million more, they could have like gotten a better editor or something like that. But there's just something that's a little bit off about it. But still really good movie and fun to watch. So I did also see Center Stage this month. I'm not going to talk about that one because I'm out of time. But I'll just go ahead and give that one 2 stars. That was one that my wife made me watch. That's the ballet movie. That's the ballet movie. It's the one about the movie about the ballet performers in New York City trying to make their dreams come true. And it's I can't say I enjoyed that one very much. Oh, we didn't talk about a book either. Shoot. Too much to talk about movies. Well, you know what we'll do? We'll catch up on that. We'll chat about that in Discord to see if people have finished it. This book was the February book on tyranny. It's very short. 126 little pages. It took me like 2 hours to read it, probably total, maybe. So you could easily do it in a weekend. And it's just kind of like little. It's almost like a bathroom book, a bathroom reader. But I'd be interested to hear what you guys thought about it, so I do want to talk about it. But I don't have time to do it today. So we can see on Discord if people have read it yet. We can talk about it on stream next week, or talk about it there, or I will just bring it up next week and we'll talk about it. We'll catch up on it next week during this little Tuesday afternoon streamerino. What else? What other housekeeping items do I have for y'all? Tomorrow we're going to be back playing some Apex. I was thinking about maybe trying to get like a community night going. Not on stream, because it's too late for most people. But through the Discord, just to kind of get us all playing with each other a little bit more routinely, if we're still playing it, or if you still want to play it, or even just like once a month, even if you're not playing it a day, kind of hang out. So I'm gonna float that idea in Discord and see if anybody wants to get in on that, or knows anybody who might want to get in on that. Oh, I'm going for a run. It's 60 degrees outside. I'm gonna go for a run. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night with Apex, and then again next Tuesday be back for this year just chatting stream. I don't know what we're gonna talk about yet. We might talk about some serious stuff, some serious like political stuff. Let's see what happens. I feel like I had one other thing I wanted to mention before we sign off for the day. Forgot. Oh yeah. I need to choose my next roguelike game to play. I'm in need of something to play on Tuesdays, and kind of something else to play that's not Apex. I'm at the point now where I'm just like, okay, starting to get a little burned out playing the same thing over and over again, so I need to mix it up a little bit. So I will be posting that. I think I'll make a little poll and post it in the Discord. A Rogueborn Vania. I don't know about the Vania part. In that order: Rogue, Born, Vania. I guess that you said it correctly. A Rogueborn Vania. So start with the Rogue. If we can't get the Rogue, then we go the Born. If we can't get the Born and the Rogue, then we go with the Vania. That's the order in which it will happen. We got a couple of options. Hollow Knight. It's a Vania. It's not a Rogue. I feel like there are other Rogues out there, but it's so good. We'll see. I'll let you guys be the judge. I'm sure that one will win. I will put that on the list to be voted for, and I'm sure that one will win. So that's probably what it will be. But you never know. You gotta have some drama, or else people won't keep showing up. So we'll make a vote of it now, and we'll go from there. So basically, I am going to sign off and send us over to someone. Let's see. Speaking of Apex Legends, let's throw a host to Marvelous Plays. He's playing some Apex, unless there's anybody else here. Yeah, we'll go host Marv. He's playing some Apex Legends, and I will be back tomorrow night playing Apex Legends. Thank you guys for hanging out. It was good talking to you guys today for sure. Our movies for let's go over that real quick. Our movies for March. We are choosing excellent screenplays as our theme, based off of Chinatown, which was a movie that a couple people in the community said that they have been meaning to see but have never seen. So we started with that as kind of our baseline, and we are going with 2 other movies that have good scripts. Chinatown is one. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, most people have seen that one, but I feel like, especially with scripts, it's good to, if you're analyzing a script and really focusing on the writing, it's good to have a movie that you've already seen. That's why I chose that one. And then this one is a kind of a flyer. I found it on a list somewhere with Nail and I don't know much about it. It's critically acclaimed movie. It's a comedy. It's kind of a black comedy. I've seen a clip from it and it made me laugh, so I was like, all right, well, let's see. It's supposed to have a really good script. So that one, and it's available on HBO. So with Nail and I, Chinatown and Eternal Sunshine are the 3 movies for March. I will also be keeping track of all the other movies that I watch over the course of the month, and we will chat about them. And I hope that maybe this becomes a normal thing and you guys do the same. Like, hey, you know what movie I saw in March that you might like, and we'll add it to the list here. So anytime you guys show up for these conversations and you want to add something to the list, like this one, Jodorowsky's Dune was a movie that came up during our conversation about Dune, that I have been wanting to see, and this is a reminder for me and anybody else that shows up, like, these are the things that were mentioned. So this is not like a list that I have to curate. If you guys want to add to this list, let me know, and I can just very easily pop it in here, and then we can talk about it. So yeah, until then, until tomorrow night, guys, have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the sun if you have some where you are, and I will see you guys tomorrow night.